Hey everyone, my name is Kit and I'm a product designer. So I have been using Protopie quite a bit with my projects at the moment. And especially when I first started, I realized there was a bit of lack of content out there regarding tutorials. So I thought it'd be a great idea for me to create a tutorial for all those beginners out there. So the first tutorial I'm going to take you through now is based on scrolling animations. So I would put this at being a beginner level tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoy it. So the first thing I'm going to draw your attention to is the design before you. So you can see here that we have a mid-fidelity version of my points/rewards section within an app. So we have the title here, then we have the placeholder for an illustration, followed by the counter, 2 lines of copy, and 3 categories to select from, and then the search results from those categories. So if I just bring you towards the left here, we can see this is our layers list. So we can see that my points landing page, this is one container. So if I turn this off, it turns off all the content that we see here. And then if I expand this, we have 3 containers within this. So if I now bring you onto the actions list here, so we can see that these contain all the actions that are needed to create this animation. You're probably wondering, what is this animation? So I will quickly take you through exactly what we're going to try and recreate today. And then we're going to recreate each of these individual actions so you can see exactly how I've done this. So let's move on to our preview screen. So if I start scrolling down the page, you can see that this scrolling state takes effect. So you can see that my points title and the points counter to become, at the top of the page, and this now becomes sticky. And then also you can tell by the 3 main categories that have actually changed to become this sort of pill tab format that have also become sticky on the top of the page. And then you can see that you can just scroll through the rest of the search results, and all these elements at the top just remain here so the user can click on them at any point while they're scrolling through these results. So let's start by recreating all these actions again. So first thing, let's turn off this list of actions so they are not active. Now, let's create a range action first. So we want to make sure we have my points landing page selected here. And then for this, say scroll. The reason why we want this is because we want the software to realize when we're scrolling through a certain section within the app. So the rest of these actions will take effect. So let's make sure we have A to B. So these are different points where it's going to register when we're scrolling between. So let's change this to 200 and 220. Now, the next thing we want to do, we want to create these 3 opacity actions. So the first one we're going to do is to turn on this layer here. So this is the scrolling navigation, which I showed you at the top, which are the pill tabs, which is currently turned off. So we want to make sure this is turned on. So let's change this to scrolling navigation. And we want to change opacity all the way to the top. So this turns this layer on once we've scrolled to a certain point. The next thing we want to go on to is the opacity for the text line. So the reason why I want to do this is because we want to turn this layer off. So another trick for doing this, because when you turn on the opacity action on, automatically the default option is this. So what you need to do is to bring up the opacity to the tool and then bring it back down again for it to be registered as being a 0. All right, and the next one we want to do is turning off these 3 main categories, as they're going to already swap to the top navigational pill tabs, which we've turned on just above here. So we want to select categories. And once again, we want to turn this all the way down. So let's just see what happens with these 3 actions to the rest of this prototype here, without any of the move actions being placed yet. So let's scroll down. There we go, perfect. We have every layer that we want turned off and every layer that we want on turned on. So let's just reset this, and now let's go and create the move actions. So starting with the first one, which will be tiles group 01. Let's just select that. So one thing to mention here that I would definitely make sure you have done, if you go onto your layers list here, click on tiles group 01, then move right towards the far right-hand side, scroll down and make sure that this says scrolling and direction in the sort of vertical action. So this means that if you go onto the previous screen here, you can scroll through the search results. We need this to happen for the rest of this animation to work. So what are we moving? So we're only moving this on the y-axis. We're not moving this on the x-axis. So it's only moving vertically. So let's make sure it says 80. And the next one we want to move is the points counter. But this time, this is moving on the x and y axis. So the points counter is already selected there. So this is going to move 191 on the x axis. And just to make sure, again, we've got 205 on the y-axis. So let's make sure that says moving from that on the vertical axis. Now we've got our last thing, which is my points title. So let's select one to move. It's already selected here. Just make sure it says my points title. Then once again, this is moving on x and y-axis. So we've got 15 and 202. So let's see if this works. Let's go onto the preview screen again and start scrolling down. Perfect. So everything seems to work. The scrolling state seems to take effect. You can scroll through the whole list of your results while also having the top navigation here. So the user can click on any of these at any point and also see the total points at the top. Great. So now on to the second part of this tutorial, where we're going to be reversing what we created previously by creating a scrolling state for when the user scrolls back to the top of the page again. So just to cover exactly what we did before, as you can see on the screen here, create the scrolling state if you scroll down. But now what we're going to do is reverse this when the user scrolls back to the top of the page again, like this. So as you can see here, I have my list of actions already developed. But what we're going to do for the purpose of this tutorial is to turn them off and recreate them again. So the first one we want to do is go on to the range action. So we want to make sure this says my points landing page and the label on scroll. And we want to click onto this point here from A to B. But now we want to do 0 to 100. So the software picks these points up for when the user scrolls to the top of the page again for these actions to take place. So now what we want to do is focus on the opacity actions. As you can see that these actions fully mirror exactly what we have above here, but they're doing the reversal of what we created previously. So the first one we want to do over here is the opacity for the scrolling navigation. So just to show you what the scrolling navigation was again, if we just scroll down here. These points here, so these appear for the scrolling state. So we just want to make sure that these disappear when we scroll back to the top of the page again. So let's go on to opacity. So it already says scrolling navigation, it's already selected there, but just make sure it says that. And then what you have to do is bring it back down again so it registers this being at 0. So the next opacity action we want to do is the text lines, as you can see here. We want to bring these back up to 100, so they'll be visible again. And the last one we want to do, see here, is the categories. So these are the main categories that we want to appear when the user scrolls back to the top of the page again, especially as we've taken out the scrolling navigation. So change this to categories. This is already up the top, so that's fine. So the next point I want to focus on are the move actions here. So the first move action is the tiles group 01, as you can see here. We want to move this now to 16 on the x-axis and 217 on the y. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure it says tiles group at 1. So the next one we want to do is the points counter, you can see here. So we want to move this to 101 on the X and 126 on the Y. So perfect. Now the last one is my points title, as you can see here. So we want to move this to 61 on the X and minus 57 on the Y. Great. So let's now see if this works. So I'm just going to scroll down the page. The scrolling state, perfect. Now let's see if this works. If we reverse it, scroll back up. Great, perfect. So this is a fully working sort of prototype now. But there's one thing I want to draw your attention to that will help the overall performance of this and also make you start to think about the animation in a bit more granular detail. So this is based on the timing of it. So as you can see when I scroll down the page here, it's quite a nice, slow, gradual animation. But when I scroll to the top, it's too fast. So what we need to do is make sure we've got the same time frequencies as the first set of range actions here for the scrolling state. So as you can see, this is 0.6. We have 0.2. So we need to change this to 0.6, 0.6, and 0.6. So I'm just going to refresh this and see if this works again. So we're going to scroll down. Perfect. Now we want to scroll back up again. There we go. Well, this brings us to the end of our scrolling tutorial. I hope you found it really useful. And in the next one, I'm going to be covering a bit more of an advanced tutorial. So please stay tuned for that.